What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with Kev. We went live as soon as the game just ended, and we got a crying Seahawks fan here on the line. Crying Seahawks fan, how do you feel about your defeat?
Oh, in all seriousness, congratulations to the Atlanta Falcons. You know, I said, Mitch, I wanted to go with my heart, but I had to go with my head, and I think I think so many things happened here, but I think let's get to the key fact here. They were outplayed in all facets: offense, defense, special teams. Yes, Devin Hester had an incredible amount of runs, but 3 bad penalties. But most of all, I'm gonna throw this one out here. I think the Seahawks were outcoached.
Yes, I was actually gonna say that, Kev. I was actually gonna say that because you were like outplayed in every facet, and then I was gonna throw in and also outcoached because I think the star of the game wasn't even on the field. I think the star of the game was Kyle Shanahan.
Yes, he was. He was sitting in the press box. The Seahawks had simply no answers. And what's frustrating about that is you started off with an 8-minute drive and you punched it in the end zone when I think the Falcons made an error ball first. And then they came back and it almost was practice. They had no answer for anything. There was terrible tackling. This is beyond an Earl Thomas issue. The line got bashed around. I mean, maybe 3 sacks. The linebacking core was absolutely terrible today. Defensively, they didn't establish themselves. They have lost a lot of that swagger. Julio Jones schooled Richard Sherman. Sorry, I'm being very brutal here. I mean, this is just after the game, and maybe we have to look at the film, but that's the reality of the situation. The Falcons soundly outplayed the Seahawks, and especially that offense versus the defense, which has been the Seahawks calling card.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is this the end of an era in Seattle, or is this just a really dominant Falcons team? I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, coming into this game, I thought the Falcons would move the ball. I thought they would go up and down the field. I thought in this game, the score would be kept a little bit lower because Seattle would be able to answer. But once Seattle wasn't able to be consistent on the offensive side of the ball, it kind of just got out of hand because the Atlanta just kept scoring and scoring and scoring, drive after drive after drive, at least getting field goals. And Seattle just couldn't answer. And Russel Wilson, he didn't have a lot of help from his offensive line. I didn't think that he played that bad, actually.
No, he didn't. He was, you know what, I can't put this on the offense. I mean, other than the fact that they tripped on the 2.
That was a huge play. That was the play of the game. I mean,
that and the fact that the Atlanta Falcons on the 2-minute warning went 99 yards.
That's true.
In the
John Elway like from Matt Ryan right there.
Yes, yeah. It was Matt Ryan's tribute to John Elway, except it wasn't like in the last. But they just, this one is. I mean, I can't look around on this. This is key on the defense here. I mean, I know that Seahawks fans have a big anger towards Darrell Bevel at times, but the offense wasn't that bad. I mean, we didn't see Curse. There was a few things that didn't happen. No Jimmy Graham again. I honestly think we won't see Jimmy Graham in a Seahawks uniform next year. But all of the inconsistencies that the Seahawks had all year came to fruition when they faced a better team. This is not the Detroit Lions. This is a team that needs to be taken seriously. Dylan, Cowboy fans or Packer fans out there.
Yep.
This is not a team that you're just going to walk by and head to the
Honestly, Kev, as a Patriots fan, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking before the playoffs even started, before this game even started, I'm like, I want the Seahawks to win because if there's any team that can beat the Patriots, it's a team that can score as many points as the Patriots. So for me, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't want Atlanta to win. I'd rather play Dallas. I'd rather play Seattle. I'd rather even play Aaron Rodgers than play the Falcons offense. And as iffy as the Atlanta defense has been at times, I think that from a Patriots point of view is kind of scary. But let's get into the players, the games, and what made Atlanta so special in this game. I think first off, we got to mention that this game was played in Atlanta. What a huge difference it made from the earlier game in the year. The fans were rowdy. They were loud. The defense definitely kind of played up another notch because of the crowd around them. And their pass rush was a lot more effective in this game because of that. I thought one of the things where Seattle was going to have to be great at was protecting Russel Wilson. And in the first half, they weren't bad. But once it got into the second half, you started to see Atlanta getting through. Beasley, some of their defensive tackles were even getting through straight up. And Brooks Reed was wreaking havoc as well. So there was a lot of playmakers for Atlanta along the defensive line. And like I said in the preview, when they played them the first time, Atlanta's defense and specifically their defensive line wasn't the same that it is now. There's a lot more young players that are flying around now and are making plays, especially at home where they're a lot more confident. So it's going to be interesting to see. They hope that they probably play Green Bay just because that game will be at home. So if they have to go to Dallas, it will be interesting to see how their defense responds outside of their home environment. They have been playing a lot better, though, so it's going to be interesting to watch next week. But I think all the credit has to go to Atlanta for the most part. Seattle, they played just about as good as I thought they would play. I mean, they made a couple bad plays here and there. Definitely not having Earl Thomas showed up huge in a couple plays. That one touchdown to Coleman back in the end zone was awful coverage, totally a blown coverage there. And just the tackling, especially because guys like a guy like Earl Thomas, some people don't realize, especially in the scheme that the Seahawks run, he masks so many deficiencies of the defense. He masks tackling issues. He masks coverage issues. He masks Richard Sherman get speed, and he's able to fly around and make big hits. And a couple times on third down, you're like looking at the play and you're like, Earl Thomas would have made that tackle. Earl Thomas would have made that hit. So for me, I think the biggest thing for Seattle was just the player they didn't have, but you also got to give a ton of credit to Atlanta and specifically Kyle Shanahan. That first series was a work of art. I tweeted out and I was like, how is this guy not a head coach? That was ridiculous. Just a couple of those plays were amazing. And I said that Dan Quinn's philosophy and approach and experience with Seattle would come in handy. It definitely did, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So Atlanta, a lot of credit. Let's go to the quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, 17 for 30, 225, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Matt Ryan, 26 for 37, 338, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Matt Ryan looks really, really good in this game. Very calm. He made a number of throws under pressure. You want to say something, Kev?
Well, I think just in terms of Wilson, one was a bit of an overthrow, but the other one.
Both of them were under pressure, and both of them were in situations on fourth down where you have to throw the ball. You're not going to just sit there and take a sack.
Yeah. I don't think that it was his worst game. It wasn't the Green Bay game for sure.
But for Matt Ryan, there was a couple plays, specifically on third down, he was very clutch. Their offense, there were guys running wide open for a majority of the game, and it was just like, how do these guys get so open? So Matt Ryan played great, but also Kyle Shanahan, again, allowing him to play great. The ground game was so-so. I mean, Coleman, 57 yards on 11 carries, 14 carries for Freeman for 45 yards and a touchdown. I thought Coleman probably was the more effective back in this game, especially through the air. Freeman did have a couple long ones, like a 53 long catch there, but Coleman had the touchdown. He just looked a little bit more explosive. Freeman is kind of the more agile back, but against Seattle, I thought Coleman was a little bit more effective on the ground. Freeman was solid, though. He had a nice, tough touchdown run. And I thought their running game was good enough, and it allowed them to stay balanced throughout the game. But their pass game with Gabriel and Jones and Sanu and all the other guys that they have was very effective. And
what was the third down comparison?
Let me see. Third down efficiency, they were 50%, which it seemed like they were better than that. Maybe that's because I thought early in the game, there was maybe the second and fourth quarters where they weren't as good. But in the first and third quarters, they were just going every third down. It seemed like they were converting.
Yeah, they were clutch, and that Freeman 50-yard run, that was a third down.
Yeah.
That was just after the Seahawks got a field goal. So if they got him off the field, they would have had another chance to score another point, at least try to get a touchdown. It was just like, I mean, it's not a bounce here and there. It's just execution and I think for the Seahawks, just a lack. I mean, this is partially Earl Thomas not being there, but there was poor tackling from 11 other people tonight. And Terrell's going to get a big blame of this, but Cam Chancellor didn't have a good game. Richard Sherman didn't have a good game.
And a lot of that again goes back to Earl Thomas because he allows all these guys to play their role as good as they can.
Yeah, but this is terrible tackling though too. Like you can't just say, "Oh, that's Earl's."
I'm saying that maybe we overvalue those other players a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that could be.
Also, for the Atlanta defense coming in, they knew their number one priority was to stop the run. They definitely did that because if they weren't able to stop the run, you really saw at the beginning of the game where Seattle was having a lot of success. They were able to run the ball and maybe hit Jimmy Graham on a couple of plays. So when they were able to stop the run, it just let their pass rush tee off on Russell Wilson. And that's when they really in the second half started to get some pass rush because when you're not able to run the ball and when you're behind by so many points, especially with an offensive line as bad as the Seattle Seahawks, you're not coming back. I said that in my preview. I said Atlanta needs to start fast. Atlanta needs to get a lead. And they got a lead, and basically it was game over from there because they were able to tee off on the quarterback. They didn't have to worry about the run game, and their offense just continued to roll. So Atlanta's defense, I thought, played good where it needed to against the run. It did struggle a bit with plays down the field. Richardson played pretty well, I thought. I mean, the kid's he's very young, very inexperienced, but he's come up with a few big plays in the playoffs. Baldwin was a little quiet. He still had that touchdown at the end of the game, but I expected more out of him. Graham had a touchdown. I also expected a lot more out of him. I thought that he would have been a lot more effective and utilized in the game plan, but that wasn't the case. Did you think that Seattle kind of messed up with their offensive game plan? Do you think anybody kind of just disappointed you on the offense? What's your thoughts on that, Kev?
Well, I think that one of the things I talked about last week when we reviewed the Detroit-Seattle game is that they didn't run much left. They ran middle and right. Atlanta did a nice job of forcing them to go left, and that
good point.
That helped. Jermaine Ifedi getting hurt helped Atlanta. I think one of the things that I really enamored with that secondary of Atlanta, if I'm Dallas or Green Bay, that is an area I would like to expose, and I didn't think Seattle exposed very well.
This was my issue with Seattle's offense. I thought Seattle would kind of the similar way that they played the Patriots. I thought they would be more aggressive in terms of just passing the ball. Like I understand that you're trying to play keep away with Atlanta, and you don't want their offense to be on the field. But the even more effective strategy is to just spread them out and slice them. And I felt like the Seahawks didn't go to enough like 5 wide sets, kind of like make Russell Wilson, let him kind of run around and just slice the zone D up because they were kind of in a lot of under center looks. And then later on, they went to a lot of just 3 receivers and a tight end. And it was kind of like the normal Seahawks predictable offense. On 3rd and 4, they were running an inside zone run. Like it made no sense to me. I mean, they were very predictable. Instead of maybe occasionally running a read option with Russell Wilson, they never really did that. They never tried any different plays. They never really caught you off guard. Well, on the offensive side for Atlanta, all night they're utilizing different sets, 5 wide, 4 receivers, 3 receivers, 2 backs, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. I mean, they were doing it all, and the Seahawks were just typical old Seattle. And I thought, again, creatively, offensively, Seattle failed and Atlanta thrived.
Yeah, that's true. And I think there was at a point at the game that Matt Ryan had 13 people in it for the Falcons touch the football. Even another thing that I think Seattle could have done a little bit better tonight. Devin Hester had a great game returning the football.
He was the best player for Seattle tonight.
But
And
why?
he is the GOAT, no question.
No question. But why don't you throw him on offense when you're staggering? Why don't you just try something?
Hand a reverse to him or something.
Yeah. I mean, there was just this. I think that there's this. Well, we can come back from anything attitude, and I think they still feel they have this swagger from 2013. And I think that during the offseason, there's a reality that has to settle in here that there needs to be a transition and change. We don't need to rebuild as much as we need to reload and refocus, specifically that offensive line, which they haven't spent money on, and maybe they need to spend a couple of bucks more on that. You can't have a basketball player on your left tackle position. Sorry. You can't I mean, I know that they tried to focus on it, but it wasn't enough. And I think another question going into the offseason for the Seahawks is Thomas Rawls. I think I'd have to say that he was the most disappointing Seahawk of the year. Yeah, I know he was injured.
Probably. Jimmy Graham was pretty good, but I mean, didn't you expect more?
Yeah, I did, but I mean, I think I think he's going to be in a different team and he's going to thrive. Look for him in Indianapolis next year.
Okay, so I got a couple more questions before we go and watch the Patriots game. So one question for Seattle, and then, or actually I'll talk a little bit about Atlanta, and then we'll go last question for Seattle after that. So I thought Keanu Neal was really good. He had 9 tackles, talking a bit about the defense here. Babineau was impressive in the run game. Of course, we had who else was there? Beasley kind of was a little quiet, but he made some plays in the run game. Their corners didn't really make many plays. Jones had an interception. Brooks Reed was disruptive, like I said. Garland had a sack. Yeah, that's about it. And then we had on the Seahawks side, let's just talk a bit about the defensive line and some of the players that were throwing fits. Do you have any opinion on like Bennett or all the other guys that were kind of unfocused throughout the game? And then we'll get out of here.
It happened all year. It happened all year. There was times they had to re-energize this team, refocus this team, bring this team back to some sort of continuity. The thing with the Seahawks tonight, what festered all year came out tonight, and that goes down to what happened here. They never got their issues fixed. They never adjusted to what the problems were. I go back to that Arizona loss. I think that was the biggest loss maybe in Seahawks regular season history. Because if this game is in Seattle, they had the bye. There's a much more different thing. I'm not going to pin this all on Earl Thomas. I think that guys like Bennett and Sherman and Averill and all of those guys need to take some ownership, and they need to stop being this complainy team. They're a complainy team. They are the Calgary Flames of the 80s when there was like, if you don't like a call, you complain to the ref. There needs to be a bit of an adjustment. So it's going to be an interesting off season. And in a sense, maybe it's a good thing they're out now.
Yeah, good luck to Atlanta moving forward, all the fans out there. You guys played well today, offensively, defensively, leadership-wise, coaching-wise. Coaching will be interesting going forward to see what Kyle Shanahan has mixed up for the next team they play. And it was a win, 36-20. Atlanta's feeling good about themselves. Seattle, not so much. Hope you guys enjoyed the recap of the Falcons and the Seahawks. 36-20 for the Falcons. Stick around later as we recap the Patriots and the Texans. Thanks, guys, for joining us, and peace out.